Leonard is on a minute restriction. And sources told me that when he was guarding Klay Thompson, he was struggling when he got into the game after sitting down for a while. He was struggling keeping up with Klay Thompson. And so there was a timeout called late in that fourth quarter. And during the fourth quarter, during that timeout, Chris Paul went to Kawhi Leonard and said, "Hey, man, are you fresh enough? Do you feel good? Do you feel like you can stick with Klay Thompson?" And he asked the teammates, he said, "Hey, y'all might want to switch this. Wait till he gets warm until he goes and guards Klay. Klay is killing, have about 5-6 threes at that point." And so they ended up switching the matchup, the assignment. And so the next day, Jeff Van Gundy, assistant coach for the Clippers, he called a meeting with Chris Paul on the plane the next day. And he asked Chris Paul if he changed up the defensive assignment yesterday. And Chris said, "No, I didn't change up the assignment. I just suggested, hey, we might want to have somebody else guarding Klay right now because Kawhi is not warm yet." And so I was told that Jeff Van Gundy told Chris Paul, "Listen, you might have had leeway in other places to be able to, to change up defensive coverages, but you don't have that leeway here." And that was just one of the minor verbal incidents between Jeff Van Gundy and Chris Paul. That was one of a few in this brief span with the Clippers.
Just speaking on this specific incident that Chris is talking about, I've had those conversations with guys as we're leaving the huddle. Hey, let's try to look at this. Let's try to look at that. That's based on the trust that I've built with those guys, and that's based on the trust that I've built with the coaching staff. I am one of those guys that I will refuse to let one guy take down 15. So if you're the one guy that's disrupting the locker room, you have to go. But that's also a situation where if Chris Paul is the one guy, he still deserves an opportunity to sit down with the head coach and figure it out. I'm not going to backpedal on that. I'm standing by that. As a former player, T. Lue, who's been in that locker room, it should be an open door policy for all players, whether you agree what they got to say or not. It should be an open door policy, eye-to-eye communication, man to man. And whether we agree or not, we at least got it off our chest. It's been plenty of times that me and Spo have been in that office. We did not agree, and we still ain't agreed. 10 years later, I'm retired, and we would not agree about certain things, but we got it out. And it was over with, and it was based on both of us and all of us wanting the same thing. At the end of the day, the Clippers want to win. They ain't doing much of it. So what the hell is wrong with Chris Paul just making one adjustment? I don't agree with it being handled like that. But once again, I will say this. If Chris Paul was the guy that was being disruptive and he did not get the chance to have that conversation with the coaches, then he got to go. But he did not have that opportunity to have that conversation. And that's why I draw the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think on most teams I've been on, and especially the Clippers teams with Chris Paul and DeAndre and JJ and all these guys, we would have conversations on our own all the time. And that didn't mean we were changing defensive coverages. We were talking things out. And players have to have the ability to talk things out. At the end of the day, it's the coach's call, right? And so I don't know what exactly happened after that conversation with Kawhi, but I do know that lack of communication is a killer. And UD said it, like, at the very least, you can disagree, but you have to be able to have a conversation. And I think the fact that there was no conversation had, and there was sort of a confrontational conversation the next day on the plane, like, hey, I don't know what you had back then. I don't, that just doesn't help. And as a coach, the emphasis on getting it right is much more important than the emphasis on being right. And so getting a play right or getting something correct, you may overlook something, right? You got a million things to look at, right? Especially the end of games. There's a lot of stuff happening. So as a coach, it feels like you should welcome ideas on how to get it right. And, the next day after you've had time to sleep on it, like, approach that situation in a non-confrontational way, if that's, how it went down. So at the end of the day, like, if that is the decision that the Clippers needed to make, if it was, you owe a conversation.
Man.
Yeah.
Right, at the very least, like, that's all. At the very least, you just owe a conversation. That's the biggest thing about this for me, and that's why I keep saying I'm disappointed, because that is just a fundamental value that everybody should have, right? Like, you owe somebody an explanation, you owe a conversation. You look somebody man to man in the eye and you say, hey, listen, it didn't work out. I apologize, and you go your separate ways. But not talking about something has never been the answer for solving.
I got a question, Blake. Where is Lawrence Frank's office? Where is his office at? Do you know?
Well, they got a brand new.
So it's not in the locker room. It's not in the locker room, basically.
It's not.
Okay, so he shouldn't be in nothing that got to do with locker room conversation. This is our sanctuary. This is our sanctuary. This is the coaches. This is the guys that come to practice every day. This is the training staff. This is our sanctuary. We handle everything down here.